Before Maitreya, before the Gnostics, and before the Assassins or the Hashashins, prior to the Templars, the Skull and Bones, and the roshaniya, before the Freemasons and Illuminati, and long before the Order of the Rose and Cross, or the Jesuit order, there was the Brotherhood of the Snake. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to read is an excerpt from a book called Behold a Pale Horse, written by William Cooper. Quote, "History is replete with whispers of secret societies, accounts of elders or priests who guarded the forbidden knowledge of ancient peoples, prominent men meeting in secret who directed the course of civilizations are recorded in the writings of all people. When it comes to secret societies, there is always an exclusivity of membership. This is found in all human endeavors, even those which are not secret, such as sports teams or country clubs. This exclusivity of membership is actually one of the secret society's most powerful weapons. There is the use of signs, passwords, and other tools. These have always performed valuable functions in man's organizations everywhere. It can be anything, but it is usually fraternal, and it is said to be existing for the good of the overall community. The camaraderie is especially important. Sharing hardships or secrets has always been a special bond to man. Whether they actually understand the ceremony or the symbology involved, or the true meaning, is irrelevant. It is the specialness, the emotion, the knowledge that you are one of the few who have experienced this initiation and have been accepted by a group calling themselves the elite, the elect, the special, the superior. Neophytes gain knowledge of a secret, giving them special status. The ancient meaning of neophyte is, quote, planted anew or reborn. A higher initiation is, in reality, a promotion, inspiring loyalty and the desire to move up to the next rung. The goals of the society are reinforced, causing the initiated to act towards those goals in everyday life. Most never ever realize what they're doing, but regardless of that, it still brings about a change in the political and social action of the member. The change is always in the best interest of the goals of the leaders of the secret society. The leaders are called adepts, priests, the illumined ones, 1,000 points of light, the stars of the firmament of the heaven. This can best the initiation be described as the soldier trained to follow orders without thinking. Important aspects. The result is often the wounding or death of the soldier for the realization of the commander's goal, which may or may not be for the good of the overall community. Initiation bonds the members together and ambitious men who can be trusted. You will notice that the higher the degree of initiation, the fewer the members who possess that degree. Most members never proceed beyond this point and never learn the real, secret purpose of the group. And ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to one of those people right now. That was a long, long time ago. A method of deciding exactly who is to become an adept may be decided during initiation by asking the candidate to spit upon the Christian cross. If the candidate refuses, the members congratulate him and tell him you have made the right choice, as a true adept would never do such a terrible thing. The newly initiated might find it confusing, however, that he or she never advances any higher, no matter how hard they work, study, or participate. If instead the candidate spits upon the cross, he or she has demonstrated a knowledge of one of the mysteries, and soon will find him or herself a candidate for the next higher level. Now remember, almost all of these societies require a belief in a higher being, but they never ever tell you who that being is. And since it is forbidden to mention the name of Jesus Christ in the lodge, then who could this be? The oldest on record is known as the Brotherhood of the Snake, also called the Brotherhood of the Dragon, and it still exists under many different names. The Brotherhood of the Snake is devoted to guarding the, quote, secrets of the ages, and to the recognition of Lucifer. The secrets of these groups are thought to be so meaningful that only a chosen, well-educated few are able to understand and use them. These men supposedly use their special knowledge for the benefit of all mankind. At least that is what they claim. But how are we to know, since their knowledge and actions have been kept secret? Them, the mystery literally is that religion is but a tool to control the masses. Knowledge, or wisdom, is their only God, through which man himself will become God. Wisdom is represented and has been represented throughout the history of the world as the serpent, the snake, Satan, Lucifer. The snake and the dragon are both symbols of wisdom. Lucifer is the personification of the symbol. It was Lucifer who tempted Eve to entice Adam to eat of the tree of knowledge, and thus freeing man from the bonds of ignorance. The worship, which is a lot different from the study of knowledge, science, or technology, is Satanism in its purest form, and its god is Lucifer. Its secret symbol is the all-seeing eye in the pyramid. Another example of a secret society is the Christian Church, which was at one time a secret society under the Roman Empire. They were a minority persecuted. In fact, the Vatican actually ruled most, if not all, of the known world at one time, and this could be argued to be true to this day. This occurred after when the Roman Empire became literally the Vatican, and the Emperor became literally the Pope. More on this in a minute. It is this particular information that may well be the keystone to figuring out what has occurred. It was a marriage. You see, the small cult of Christians were threatening the empire, and no matter how many the empire killed, 3 times as many sprang up to take their place. So a very wise Roman emperor named Constantine married the Roman pantheon of gods with the teachings of this cult called Christianity, or Christians, and created what is now today known as the Catholic Church, from which all other Christian churches sprang. In the summer of 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, is when the mystery school agent Constantine, along with others, determined what books would constitute the modern Bible and story of Christianity. It is at this time that the Greek gods that became the pantheon of Roman gods then became the pantheon of saints. The emperor became the pope, and from that day Rome ruled the world and staved off the destruction of the empire. In fact, the empire grew and spread and took in all of Europe. Does this symbol ring a bell to anyone? Pisces, right? What is the time frame for Pisces? According to Wikipedia, the age of Pisces began in AD 1 and will end in AD 2150. And when was Jesus born? Why do so many Christian symbols for Christ use the astrological symbol for Pisces, the fishes? The figure Christ himself bears many of the temperaments and personality traits of a Pisces. For example, he was a fisherman, or the miracle of feeding the wedding party with the bread and the fish, or walking on water, along with many more references if you care to search. And so Jesus is thus considered an archetype of the Piscean. Moreover, the 12 apostles were called the fishers of men. Early Christians called themselves little fishes. And a code word for Jesus was the Greek word for fish. With this, the start of the age, or the great month of Pisces, is regarded as the beginning of the Christian religion. What age preceded Pisces? Aries? The age of Aries is symbolized by a ram, or even just the Y-shaped ram horns. What was the time frame for Aries? According to Wikipedia, it began in 2150 BC and ended in 1 AD. This age coincides with over half of the Old Testament texts. How many verses from the Old Testament talk about rams or ram's horns? I found 44. Are these Bible stories simply symbolic versions of the zodiac? Of the different ages that the sun and earth happen to be in? Let's continue. What age succeeds Pisces? Aquarius? Some figures differ, but according to Neil Mann, who we've been going by for this presentation with regard to the ages, Aquarius begins in 2150 AD. Some claim sooner, and some claim we are already there. Nevertheless, listen to this verse from near the end of the New Testament. From Luke 22:10. When Jesus was asked by his disciples where the next Passover would be, he replied to them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. Now, what's the symbol for Aquarius? Is it a man holding a bucket of water? Do I have your attention yet? You see, since the beginning of recorded history, governmental bodies of every nation have been involved with maintaining the status quo to defend the establishment against minority groups that sought to function literally as states within states, or to oust the constituted authority and take over in its place either by infiltration, subversion, or open revolution. Many of these attempts, as we all know if we read history, have succeeded, but have not always lasted. Man's desire to be one of the elect is something that no power on earth has been able to lessen, let alone destroy. It is one of the secrets of secret societies. It is what gives them a political base and lots of clout. Members often vote the same and give each other preference in daily business, legal, and social activities. It is the deepest desire of many to be able to say, I belong to the elect. I am better than all of these other people, and I know a secret. After all, haven't I been chosen to this elite organization of fraternal brothers who control the community? I am special. Houses of worship and sacrifice existed in all of the ancient cities. They were, in fact, temples built in honor of the many gods. These buildings functioned often as meeting places for philosophers and mystics, who were in fact the priests and the leaders of those cities. They were believed to possess the secrets of nature. These men usually banded together in exclusive philosophical and religious schools known as the mysteries. Those who did not belong were known as the profane. The most important of all of these ancient groups is the Brotherhood of the Snake, or Dragon, and was simply known as the Mysteries. The snake and dragon are symbols that represent wisdom. You can see in the ancient hieroglyphics and paintings upon the walls of the tombs in Egypt that the elect, the priests, the leaders, the pharaohs, wore the symbol of the snake upon their forehead. They were members of the Mysteries. They had to be to rule, for if they did not know the secrets of ruling, the secrets of nature, the secrets of the sun, the light, the life giver, they could not control the mass of the profane, or, as some others call them, cattle or sheep. The father of wisdom is Lucifer, also called the light bearer. The focus of worship for the Mysteries was Osiris, in Egypt, another name of Lucifer. Osiris was the name of a bright star that the ancients believed had been cast down onto the earth. The literal meaning of Lucifer is bringer of light, or the morning star. The star that rises in the morning is the sun. The star is bright. The truth is light. After Osiris was gone from the sky, the ancients saw the sun as the representation of Osiris, and more correctly, Lucifer. After Osiris was gone from the sky, we may have some info on this that will make sense here in a minute. Illuminati leader and alumnus Albert Pike believed that Osiris is a representation of the sun itself, but he may not be correct, or he may be, as Mystery Babylon always is, being deceptive. More in a moment on that. From Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? From Fred Gettings, in the book Symbolism in Occult Art. Quote, it is claimed that, after Lucifer fell from heaven, he brought with him the power of thinking as a gift for mankind. They believed that God was evil. He was holding man prisoner in the Garden of Eden, in the bonds, the chains of ignorance. Lucifer set man free from these bonds, these chains of ignorance, with the gift of intellect, through the use of which man himself will become God. To them, Lucifer is Prometheus. Lucifer is the lightning bolt that strikes the tree and sets it at fire, from which man took a burning branch, and by adding more wood, kept the fire burning, and noticed that when he piled certain rocks around the fire, and they got hot enough, something melted and flowed out into the ground. From this, he learned to make tools. See, without the fire that the philosophers of fire worshipped, without the serpent Lucifer, there would be very little technology today. This is what they believed, and so they worshipped the symbol, which is Lucifer. And they strive through their work to accomplish the great plan, or great work, and guide the evolution of man into apotheosis, from man to God. Most of the greatest minds that ever lived were initiated into the society of mysteries by secret and dangerous rites, some of which were very cruel. Some of the most famous were known as Osiris, Isis, Sabazius, Cybele, and Eleusis. Plato, who lived from 423 BC to 347 BC, and according to Wikipedia was, quote, a Greek philosopher who helped lay the foundation for Western civilization, end quote. was also one of these initiates, and he describes some of the mysteries in his own initiation in his writings. Plato's initiation encompassed 3 days of entombment in the Great Pyramids, during which time he symbolically died, was reborn, and was given secrets that he was to preserve. Plato was initiated into the greater mysteries at the age of 49. The initiation took place in one of the subterranean halls of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The Isaiah table formed the altar before which the divine Plato stood and received that which was always his, but which the ceremony of the mysteries enkindled and brought from its dormant state. With this ascent, after 3 days in the great hall, he was received by the Hierophant of the pyramid. The Hierophant was seen only by those who had passed the 3 days, the 3 degrees, the 3 dimensions, and given verbally the highest esoteric teachings, each accompanied with its appropriate symbol. After a further 3 months sojourn in the halls of the pyramid, the initiate Plato was sent out into the world to do the great work of the great order, as Pythagoras and Orpheus had done before him. And this is from Thomas Taylor, and it is quoted by Manly P. Hall, a 33-degree Mason, in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, from 1923. Manly P. Hall stated in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, that, quote, "The illumined of antiquity entered its portals as men, they came forth as gods." And he was talking about, ladies and gentlemen, the Great Pyramid of Giza. The ancient Egyptian word for pyramid was kuti, which meant glorious light. Mr. Hall also stated, quote, "The pyramids, the great Egyptian temples of initiation," end quote. You see, they were never ever tombs for anyone. They were temples of initiation, and possibly much, much more. According to many, the Great Pyramids were built to commemorate and observe a supernova explosion that occurred in the year 4000 BC. Dr. Anthony Hewish, 1974 Nobel Prize winner in physics, discovered a rhythmic series of radio pulses which he proved were emissions from a star that had exploded around 4000 BC. The Freemasons begin their calendar from AL, which means in the year of light, found by adding 4000 to the modern year. Thus, 2020 plus 4000 would be 6220 AL, which is Annus Luminus, or the year of light. Go to any Masonic temple or any building in Washington, D.C. where the cornerstones was laid in a Masonic ceremony, at least one of which was laid by George Washington himself, and you will see the date inscribed as Annus Luminus. George Mikanowski wrote in the Once and Future Star that, quote, "The ancient Sumerian cuneiform described a giant star exploding within a triangle formed by Zeta Puppis, Gamma Velorum, and Lambda Velorum, located in the southern sky. Accurate star catalogs state that the blazing star that had exploded within the triangle would again be seen by man in 6,000 years. Now remember, earlier when we talked about Osiris, quote, "After Osiris was gone from the sky, the ancients saw the sun as the representation of Osiris," end quote. After Osiris was gone from the sky? Could this be what the ancients witnessed? The return of Lucifer, represented by this great light in the sky, also described by Malachi Martin in his book, The Keys of This Blood, written with the blessing of the Pope, described that the Pope is now waiting for a great light which will appear in the heavens, signaling the greatest return of humanity to the church in the history of the world, supposedly. Was the Pope talking about the return of this supernova that the Freemasons speak of? The supernova that marks the inception of the Mason calendar? Malachi Martin describes this subsequent event as a fission event. Do you know what a fission event is, my fellow truth seekers? It is an atomic explosion. The first secret that one must know to even begin to understand the mysteries is that their members believe that there are but a few truly mature minds in the world. They believe that those minds belong exclusively to them. They believe that when a person has strong intellect, they can easily use reason and calmly work through the problem or dilemma and reach a solution based on facts. The rest of the people? Well, they are considered irredeemable and should be taught things in the simplest form and must be led like a bunch of animals or cattle or sheep and led around by a shepherd. Folks, this comes from their very own writings. The able intellect are taught the mysteries and the esoteric spiritual truths. The masses are taught the literal exoteric interpretations. While the masses worship the five senses, the select few observe and meditate on the great abstract truths. The elect are given knowledge of the mysteries and are illumined and are thus known as the illuminati, or the illuminated ones, the guardians of the secrets of the ages. Three early secret societies that can be directly connected to a modern descendant are the cults of Roshaniya, Mithras, and their counterpart, the Builders. They have many things in common with the Freemasons of today, as well as with many other branches of the Illuminati. For instance, common to the Brotherhood are the symbolic rebirth into a new life without going through the portal of death during initiation. Reference to the lion and the grip of the lion's paw in the Master Mason's degree, the 3 degrees, which is the same as the ancient Masonic rites before the many other degrees were added, like the ladder of 7 rungs, and, of course, the all-seeing eye. You may ask yourself, after hearing this presentation, here we are in America, why is there a pyramid on the back of the $1 bill with an all-seeing eye floating above it and a smaller pyramid surrounded by rays of light? The Eye of Providence? Is this a reference to this supernova 6,000 years ago? Remember, Dr. Anthony Hewish in 1974 proved through the pulse emissions that a supernova did indeed occur 6,000 years ago. And George Mikanowski wrote in The Once and Future Star that, again now, quote, the ancient Sumerian cuneiform described a giant star exploding within a triangle formed by Zeta Puppis, Gamma Velorum, and Lambda Velorum. Could this supernova, when it exploded, have looked like a triangle exploding within the triangle of Zeta Puppis, Gamma Velorum, and Lambda Velorum in the sky? Of special interest is the powerful society in Afghanistan in ancient times called the roshaniya, or the illuminated ones. There are actually references to this very mystical cult going back through history to the House of Wisdom at Cairo. At one time, Arabia was the seat of all of the knowledge in the world. In fact, they had the only universities in the entire world. The major tenets of this cult were the abolition of private property, the elimination of religion, the elimination of nation states, the belief that illumination emanated from the supreme being who desired a class of perfect men and women to carry out the organization and direction of the world, and belief in a plan to reshape the social system of the world by first taking control of individual countries one by one. Sound familiar? In fact, the Brotherhood today believes in these very same tenets, and if you are indeed observant, you can see that this is exactly what they have done and what they are in the process of completing. It's called socialism. The important fact to remember is that the leaders of both the right and the left are a small, hardcore group of men who have been, and still are, Illuminists, or members of the Brotherhood. They may have been or may be members of the Christian or Islamic religions, or atheists or Buddhists, but that is only to further their own ends. Because, remember, the ends justify the means. They are and always have been Luciferian and internationalists. They give allegiance to no particular nation, although they have used, on occasion, nationalism to further their causes. Their only concern is to gain greater economic and political power. The ultimate objective of the leaders of both groups is identical. That is why it doesn't make any difference whether you elect Democrats or Republicans. The result has always been the same, and we go closer and closer to one world, totalitarian socialist government. They are determined to win for themselves undisputed control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the entire planet. This would explain things like NAFTA, that never quite made sense to Americans, or the outsourcing of American jobs, of which we were told was the proper way forward. And we, the sheep, who must be herded, just aren't quite enlightened enough to understand. They intend to turn the world into their conception of a Luciferian, totalitarian, socialist state. In the process, they will eliminate all religions, and the people will eventually worship the mystic priests, a one-world religion to go along with the one-world government. The roshaniya also called themselves the Order. Initiates took an oath that absolved them of all allegiance except to the Order, and stated, quote, I bind myself to perpetual silence and unshaken loyalty and submission to the Order. All humanity which cannot identify itself by our secret sign is our lawful prey. End quote. This oath remains essentially the same to this day. And I want to again reiterate that these are not my words. These are the words from they themselves. The secret sign was to pass a hand over the forehead, palm inward. The countersign, to hold the ear with the fingers and support the elbow in the cupped other hand. There are many other signs, handshakes, etc., such as the 5 points of fellowship. The order at the highest level is known as the Order of the Quest, or the Jason Society. The roshaniya took in travelers as initiates and then sent them on their way to found new chapters of the order. It is believed by some that the assassins, or the hashashins, were a branch of the roshaniya. Branches of the roshaniya, or the illuminated ones, or the illuminati, existed and still exist everywhere today. One of the rules when establishing other sects around the world was not to use the same name and never mention the Illuminati. That rule is still in effect today. And it may be that the breaking of this rule is what resulted in the modern founder of the Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt's, downfall. And ever since that day, ladies and gentlemen, they call themselves fellow travelers. That will do it for this particular presentation of the Mystery Schools. Don't forget to check out the next section of this series entitled Sun Worship when it is posted. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.